right, good morning and welcome to a day in the life of an Appalachian Trail Ridgerunner. My name is Mosey and this is Ridgerunner. So first things first, let's get in uniform. All right, time to pack up. All right, good morning. So, just finished packing up and now getting breakfast made. And I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what a Ridge Runner's morning looks like and what my typical routine is. So, I am a Ridge Runner with the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club here in Shenandoah National Park. And so, typically, I hike hut to hut or shelter to shelter. We call them huts here in the park, which can be on average anywhere between 8 and 13 miles a day, which from a thru hiker's perspective, that doesn't sound like that many miles, but you have to realize that we're not just hiking, we're doing a lot of work as we're going along. And so a Ridge Runner's pace, they say, is about 1 mile an hour. I think I found my sweet spot at about 1.3 miles an hour. But yeah, so my morning routine, I wake up, I pack up, I start making my breakfast, and then in theory, you're supposed to wait until all the hikers are out of camp before you start doing your chores and before you leave, or at least before you leave. That doesn't always work out because sometimes you have some people that like to sleep in, and sometimes you've got a really long day. Those 13-mile days, you kind of have to get moving. Last night, I didn't have anyone here at camp with me, so I'm not waiting on anyone this morning. I like to go ahead and sweep the tent sites and the shelter for trash that night when I get in, if I have time. So I did pick up trash around the shelter and at about half of the campsites last night, but there was a storm looming and it was about to hit. So I didn't get all the tent sites. So I'll get some of those this morning. And another thing that I have to do is service the privy. So I'm going to talk you through that and show you what it looks like in a little bit. But yeah, so we'll get going on trail here soon enough. I'll talk to you a little bit about what it is that I do on trail. All right, so next duty of mine is to service the privy. So there's a few different things that I have to do, and I'm gonna kind of walk you through those as I do them. So first up, I just opened up the job box, which has all the tools that I need. I'm gonna put on gloves and get started. All right, well, first things first, we're getting late into the season, so we're kind of running out of gloves. So there was only one in the job box, but I keep extras. So we're gonna grab one of these out. Just gonna have some mismatched hands, but that's okay. In this fanny pack, I have my gloves, my soap, my flagging tape, and then I have a lot of extra trash bags, both big and small. Put my clippers back in there. Got my current trash bag attached right here so I can pick up trash. As you can see, there's some toilet paper around the privy. I believe we have a mouse or something that is pulling paper out of the privy. So that's fun. We'll pick that up in a little bit, but first, let's see how things look. All right, so first things first, toilet seat has been left open, which is a problem. You want to keep that closed because it keeps all the smells inside and it keeps the critters out. So that's probably why we're seeing all this toilet paper in here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the buckets with the wood chips. This is a moldering privy, and so we do have wood chips. So I'm going to fill up these buckets. All right, so we filled up the buckets. I don't fill them all the way full because you don't want people to overuse wood chips. You want just a small handful. So I'm going to set these to the side because I'm going to sweep next. All right. So when we're sweeping, we're not just sweeping out any debris, wood chips, toilet paper, things like that. We're also knocking down cobwebs. So I'm going to be doing that some. And if there's any trash in here, of course, you don't want to sweep that out onto the dirt. You want to pick that up, put that in your trash bag. Whoop, B. Right, and all this toilet paper, I don't want to really brush that out on the ground. I'm going to have to pick it up. This is toilet paper, so it's supposed to be in the privy anyway. So I'm actually just going to pick it up and put it in there. This is where gloves come in handy. All right, we're going to sweep off the privy platform here where the toilet seat is. And with this privy, there's actually a bit of a crack between the floor and the box. And so I'm going to sweep as much as I can into that crack. Just put it right back in the privy rather than sweeping it outside. All right, so I finished sweeping. I'm going to put the broom down right there. Put the buckets back inside. And then all this toilet paper, I'm just kind of going to pick up and put in my trash bag. Some of it, because of all the rain, is really stuck. I'm not going to try and fight with it, but we're going to get what we can. All right, next step is the most fun step. So in a privy, sometimes a cone will form as the waste piles on top of one another. And one thing that we do is we topple the cone. So we have a special stick that we use to knock that over and create a poop plateau instead. So we do have a cone forming in this one. So I'm going to go do that now. All right. So I got my stick. All right, so you want to spread the waste as best as you can forward and to the side, create that flat space. So we're going to put this back in its safe little spot, not let it touch anything. All right, and the final step to servicing the privy is wiping down all the surfaces. Typically, I would do this with a bleach solution. Unfortunately, this is the only privy that doesn't have a bleach solution in the job box. There's only hand sanitizer. This is not ideal, but it's better than nothing. So I'm going to just wipe off the latches and the seat, try and get it cleaned up. All right, and with that, you can go ahead and close the door, make sure those critters stay out, and take off my gloves. And that is how a Ridgerunner services a moldering privy. All right, so just wrapped up at the hut, picked up a little trash in the last couple campsites I had to hit. I signed the logbook just to let everyone know that a Ridgerunner had stopped by and checked in. And then now, as I'm about to hit trail, I'm going to call in. So because I am here in Shenandoah National Park, I work in conjunction with the Park Service. I have a park radio. I call in every morning when I start hiking, every evening when I get to camp. I file a backcountry plan with the Park Service so they know where I'm going to be each day. And so that way they can just kind of make sure things are good, make sure I'm okay. And so I'm about to call in and do that. I also have the radio in case anything goes south and I have to call things in, which doesn't happen often, but you never know. A couple things have happened this season, so let's give a call. I am departing High Top Hut, headed towards Pinefield Hut, ETA 1800 hours.
Copy. 315.
All right, and that's that. I'll leave my radio on for a few more seconds just to make sure no one needs to get in touch with me. Most Park Service employees are going to turn their radios off or leave their radios on the whole time they're on duty. Because I am out here for 5 days, 4 nights at a time, I do have to conserve my battery so I don't leave my radio on all the time. Just kind of check in every now and then. And then sometimes when I'm feeling bored, I turn it on and listen to what's happening in the park. But yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone's gonna need me, so we're gonna turn this off and get going. All right, so what does a Ridgerunner do? I would categorize, excuse me, almost everything that Ridgerunners do into two different umbrellas, or under 2 different umbrellas. I would say what we do falls under either light duty trail maintenance or ambassadorship. And so what practically does that look like? Ambassadorship, I am on the trail talking to hikers, helping hikers, educating hikers. And so those are all hikers, not just through hikers, it's day hikers, it's backpackers, anyone who is out here, I am here to help. And so I am wilderness first aid trained. So sometimes I have to respond to medical emergencies and injuries on the trail. I educate people on leave no trace and, just teach them how to be better stewards. One moment, got to pick up some trash. All right, I'm back. And then I answer questions that hikers have. So sometimes that's directions. Sometimes it's about what water sources are flowing. Sometimes it's about animal activity, bear activity in the park. And then for thru hikers, a lot of the questions I'm answering stem from my experience having thru hiked last year. And so a lot of the questions I get from them are about Katahdin and about the whites and things like that. So that's kind of the ambassadorship, out here to be a resource to hikers and to help them however they need it. Light duty trail maintenance is the other thing that we do. And so I have a saw, I have clippers. A lot of what I do is clip back branches or vines that are encroaching upon the trail. The PATC wants the trail to be to have a 4 foot wide by 8 foot tall berth. And I can't really do the 8 feet tall part, but I do my best with the 4 feet wide just to give hikers plenty of space as they're moving through. I also have a saw, and I can remove small blowdowns or branches that are in the trail. The bigger stuff I report, and I'll show you how I do that. We dismantle fire rings. Here in Shenandoah, all ground fires are illegal. You can only have fires in designated fire pits, whether that's at a hut or one of the paid campgrounds. I pick up a lot of trash. So this is the trash I've picked up since yesterday afternoon. And I use my clippers to pick up trash because a lot of times it is stuff you don't really want to touch with your hands. I've got a lot of really gross wipes in here. And so the clippers are dual purpose as trash picker uppers and branch cutter backers. So that's a little bit of that. Yeah, let's get going. All right, so here you can kind of see what I was talking about with the 4 foot wide. So the trail itself is not 4 foot wide, but the vegetation is just cut back so that it's not too close to hikers as they're coming through. Some areas this just isn't possible, but the PATC does just like to have things cut back a good bit. A very well manicured trail. They are pretty on top of it when it comes to trail maintenance. It's kind of spoiled me a bit. My standards of trail are definitely higher than they were prior. All right, vegetation's getting a little tall through here. As you can tell, my pants are getting wet just from brushing up against it. So not big enough of an issue to put in my report. It's not that overgrown, but definitely a bit more than usual. All right, and let's address this real quickly. If you have watched my channel for a long time, then you've never seen me wear glasses. And that's because I don't wear glasses. These are actually blue light lenses I bought for the sole purpose of keeping gnats out of my eyes. We have a ton of gnats in Shenandoah. Actually, on my through hike last year, excuse me, I'm cutting a branch real quick. On my through hike last year, I bought a pair of sunglasses at Elk Wallow Wayside to keep the gnats out of my eyes, but it's just too dark in the green tunnel for sunglasses. So I got these. So that's why I'm wearing them. But just wanted to talk a little bit. So not every section of trail in the PATC is pristine. We're going to come up to a section later today that I know is going to be pretty overgrown, but it's just the nature of things. Doing this has really taught me how much work goes into maintaining a trail. All right, well, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. This is the section that I thought was going to be really overgrown, which the southern end of it could be a little bit hairy. We'll see. But seems like the maintainer has been out recently. It's looking really nice. So glad to see that. So I also just want to talk about, I guess, what a typical schedule looks like. So once again, every club is different, but here with the PATC, like I mentioned earlier, I'm out 5 days, 4 nights a week, and I hike hut to hut. And typically I hike southbound. So I'll park at the southern end of my patrol, get shuttled to the northern end, and then I will hike back to my car, cutting a branch. All right. So that is typical. And like I said, most often I am hiking southbound because most hikers are headed northbound. We're late enough in the season now, we can switch it up. I've done a couple northbound patrols. Right now I'm headed south. I just prefer it that way. And so that is that. But some weeks aren't typical. Some weeks I go out and do work days with the trail maintainers. So I've helped rehabilitate and build some water bars to help divert water off of the trail to prevent erosion. I also joined the crapper crew one day to switch out a privy. So the crapper crew works on moldering privies with the PATC. And so we switch the privy out from the cell that is composting to the cell that has been filled. So that way it can start composting. And so I'm actually going to have a video coming out soon about the day that I helped with that, which was really exciting and very educational. So I can't wait to tell you guys more about how privies work. It seems like my channel is very privy centered right now. All right, this is what I was thinking of. So yeah, getting a little overgrown here for sure. Definitely a section of trail that needs some attention. It's hard to see where your feet are gonna go. All right, the southern end of this section is actually looking really good too. So it has definitely been cut back recently. Love to see it. So maybe they just started on either end, just haven't made it to the middle yet. Not quite sure, but looking good. Whew. All right, now trudging up this climb. It's humid today and I'm going straight uphill. Oh, almost to my first break spot of the morning. Can't wait to get there. All right, so made it to my first break spot. Got a bit of a view here, gonna have a snack. Got my socks and shoes drying in the sun because all the overgrowth, the vegetation was soaking wet from the rain last night. So my feet got pretty wet, so we're gonna dry those out. The perk of being a ridge runner and doing the same section over and over again is you get regular break spots. You know where you like to stop. And so this is one of my spots for this stretch. So because I have Shenandoah, I actually have a much larger section of trail than most ridge runners have. I've got about 105 miles. I do have another ridge runner that works with me. So while I'm in the south, he'll be in the north, and then we'll flip. My first month and a half, I was here alone. So it's good to have a partner now. But because I have such a large section, I'm usually only doing a third to a half of the park each week. And like I said, then I'll flip to the other half the next week. Most other ridge runners are probably doing their full section every week, but it's a little bit different here because it's so big. So like I said, gonna have a snack. There is a dispersed campsite right back there. So dispersed camping is allowed in Shenandoah National Park, but there are a lot of rules. So you're supposed to be 20 yards from trail, 10 yards from water, a quarter of a mile from a road, and there's a few others. But I kind of know where all of these tent sites are, and when I pass through, I check them, look for trash, pick that up, and if there are any fire rings, I dismantle those. Last time I was here, there was a fire ring, so I'm curious to see if it's cropped back up. So after I have my snack, I'm gonna go check that out. All right, let's head back to the campsite, see what we find back here. All right, found a couple cigarette butts, so we're gonna pick those up, put them in our trash bag. All right, and I think that's actually all the trash that I found back here, which is pretty good. And no firing is cropped back up. Pretty sure this is where it was. I kind of put leaves over it, kind of naturalize the area. I don't know if I'll find a fire ring, so I don't know if you'll get to see me do it, but what I do is I remove all the trash and then I toss all the rocks out and then I gather all the ash and then I disperse it out in the woods and then I try and put leaves or pine duff or something over the area just to kind of naturalize it and make it look as though the fire ring was never there, and hopefully no one will be inspired to build a new one. So that's that. All right, so just a quick little update on what I've been doing and how trails have been. Honestly, trail's been in really good shape. I've had no blowdowns to report, haven't had to pull out my saw for anything, haven't had to dismantle a fire ring. So yeah, things have been going well. All I've really done, I've flicked sticks out of the trail. There was a dead tree that like a pointy part was protruding into the trail. I was able to break it off, just so no one, stabbed their shin on it or anything. There was a root that was kind of protruding up from the ground, which was a tripping hazard, so I cut that off, just to keep anyone from tripping. And then yeah, I've been clipping back branches. So pretty chill day so far. We've still got a few miles to go, so we'll see what crops up. All right, so I just stopped by this little stream to fill up on water, mixed up some electrolytes. My original plan was to have lunch here, but I got here a lot earlier than intended, and I'm not that hungry. Also, storms are looming, so I think it's wise just to keep moving. It was supposed to storm all morning and afternoon today, so I'm glad that has not been the case. But yeah, so I think I'm just gonna take a couple swigs of my element and then keep hiking. All right, so just a little bit of a trail cleanup there. And you see, I moved all of the debris downhill. So whenever you are clearing things or when you're cutting branches and you're tossing the debris, you always want to try and put it on the downhill side, because if you put it on the uphill side, then there's always the chance you could see it again. It could come downhill and re-enter the trail. So when possible, try and discard on the downhill side. All right, and as I've been going along, I've been picking up trash, so got a little more in my bag there. Found quite a bit of toilet paper, which is one of the most common things, toilet paper and wipes, that you find on trail. A lot of the time, day hikers will see me with my trash bag and they won't understand at first that it's trash, and they'll ask what I'm collecting or what sort of samples I'm gathering. And so I'm often tempted to say that I am collecting an invasive species of toilet paper flower. Um, but I usually just keep that snark to myself. All right, just made it to the top of my last climb for the day. Got about a mile to camp. Today has went really quickly. There just hasn't been a lot to do, which, sorry, it's just a really unexciting stretch to show you guys. But we may actually make it to camp before the storms hit if my phone is telling the truth. I found a tree that was absolutely covered in spotted lanternflies, which, in case you don't know, those are an incredibly invasive species and you're supposed to kill them on site. So I didn't set up the camera, but I went to town whacking my trekking pole against that tree, trying to kill as many of them as I could. There were hundreds. I couldn't get them all, but I did what I could. Unfortunately, proof that Ridgerunners aren't perfect and we make mistakes and leave no trace is a spectrum. Excuse me. And you're not always going to do it perfectly. I'm not used to wearing a microphone. Even when I filmed my thru hike, I didn't wear them, but I thought for this video I would try it out. I forgot I was wearing my microphone, and probably while I was beating those spotted lanternflies, the little wind muff fell off of it. So I left a trace, and I'm not proud of that, but we all have those moments. We all mess up. So just gonna say that real quick. All right, well, I just made it to Pinefield Hut. It was a very short and very uneventful day. Not a lot that needed doing on trail, and I actually didn't see a single person on trail today. But I will say it's not the most popular stretch, and so yeah, just about to call dispatch, let them know I made it, and then settle in at the hut start working on chores. All right, so the first thing I do when I get to a hut is I get my food bag, gather all my smellables out of my pack, and put them in here. And then we're going to take this over to the bear box. So I just go ahead and put everything away first thing when I get in because want to keep all your smellables stored away. You don't ever want to leave them unattended. But also, I'll be coming back down here for dinner, so why bother carrying them up to the tent sites? Let's see. Oh, good. No trash left in there this time. So we'll put that in there and go set up camp. And if you are familiar with the channel, you probably know that on my AT through hike, I carried a bear can the whole way. I love bear cans. I am a big advocate for bear cans, and I still have and use my bear can. But in Shenandoah, we have bear boxes at every hut except for one, which is technically outside of park boundaries, but I do stay there. And it has a bear pole. So I always have food storage and protection in the park. So that is why I'm just carrying the food bag right now. But once again, huge proponent of bear cans. All right, so I just got in, set up my tent before the rain came through, which it's actually sunny right now. So I went ahead and did a sweep of the tent sites and picked up trash there, but there's a little trash around the shelter, so we're going to pick that up. And then I step up in the shelter and look for trash around here. So it does look like we have some discarded clothing. So we'll check out that. So yeah, we have a very heavy camo hoodie, which I will be packing out tomorrow. So I'm gonna put it back in here for now. I'll just get it all together when I pack my stuff up in the morning, but I'll be carrying this and dropping it off at the next wayside or camp store.
All right. Well, we are counting ourselves very lucky that it was a easy day today, and I made it to camp when I did. Finished up picking up trash around the shelter, picked some trash up from the fire pit, and then I could tell storms were about to get bad. And this thunder is insane. So just chilling in my tent till dinner time, I guess.
All right, so storm's finally calmed down. It's a nice evening right now, and just made my dinner. Yeah, so just chilled in my tent for the last couple hours and read until things calmed down. Once again, today was very atypical. I only did like 5.5 hours of hiking. Most days I feel like I'm doing like 10. So I did choose today purposely. I didn't want to film a day in the life where it was either me starting or ending patrol because I wanted you to see the full scope. I wanted you to see me waking up at a shelter, servicing the privy. I wanted you to see me arriving in a shelter and checking things out. So I only had two options then. It was either an 8-mile day or a 13-mile day. And I knew if I was doing a 13-mile day, I wouldn't want to take the time to stop and film. And so that's why I did today. But yeah, today went super quickly. So just a couple things that I wanted to tell you, other things that I do. So I mentioned before in my report, I'll put any maintenance issues that need attention. So things that need weeding. I'll put graffiti that's fresh that needs to be removed. If it's recurrent graffiti, if I'm seeing it over and over again, then that's something we'll report and monitor as it goes up the trail. And then I will report blowdowns. We didn't have any blowdowns today, but I will insert a clip of me filling out the form if I were to have found a blowdown today. I filmed one yesterday just in case. before I take a picture, I sit my hat on it just for a reference for scale. All right, here you see me taking a picture of the blowdown to add to my report. And then I'm going to go into my screenshots and I'm going to grab a screenshot from far out that shows the location, the mile marker, and the GPS coordinates, and I'm going to type that in. So this is 0.6 south of High Top Parking, and it's at mile 908.2. I'm also going to give a brief description of the blowdown, so how to get over it, whether it's a step over, a walk under, a climb over, and any relevant information, as well as the diameter of the blowdown, just to give the maintainers an idea of the size. So I'll put that in. So in that report, I put how far I hiked each day. I put what the weather was like. And why I put what the weather is like is because some of what I do is data collection. And so I'm actually counting all of the people that I see each day. Today, I didn't see anyone. There was one guy who stopped by the shelter to get water while I was pitching my tent. But that's the only person I saw today. But I have an app and I'll show you what it looks like where I tally all of the different categories because I have to keep track of through hikers I see, backpackers I see, day hikers, trail runners, rock climbers, dogs that are on leash and dogs that are off leash. And so those numbers are often affected by the weather. So I have to put the weather in my report. And so it's really interesting trying to keep a tally of hikers, like when you're having a conversation and you're in a busy area. So one day I was standing around Mary's Rock talking to a day hiker, and in my mind I was like, okay, I've seen 3 dogs on leash, I've seen 2 trail runners, I've seen 1 through hiker, I've seen 20 day hikers. And then once that conversation was over, I got to go and put that into my app, my tally counter. So yeah, that is something we do. I also keep data around shelter usage. So, how many people are staying at the shelter? How many are in the shelter? How many are tenting? And how many hammocks or tarps there are? Just so we kind of can get an idea of how much use these facilities are getting and what people prefer. And maybe there's a reason that the hut isn't being used as much. Maybe there's a bee problem. Maybe there's a leak in the roof. Maybe there's a really aggressive wood rat. Who knows? But these are things that we kind of keep an eye on. And so, yeah, that's just one more task that I have as a ridge runner. But anyway, I'm going to eat my dinner and then I'm going to retire to my tent. Once again, I'm the only one here. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a long one, but I really wanted to show you what it's like to be a ridge runner. So thank you so much and have a good night or day or whatever time it is when you're watching this. I don't know.